Distributing is when you multiply a sum or a factor. So let's give you a couple of examples. How about 3 times like 20 plus 7? Like maybe you wanted to multiply 27 by 3. It's going to be easier to split that up into 20 plus 7. So you multiply each term inside the parentheses by the one outside. 3 times 20 is 60. 3 times 7 is 21. We still bring along that plus sign, and that's going to be 81. You can do a difference. How about 4 times 30 minus 2? So you're still going to multiply each term inside. 4 times 30 is 120. Minus 4 times 2, 8. So that would be 112. So that's distributing. Now it's also considered distributing, but more specifically factoring. Factoring is, I guess, a branch of distributing if we work the other direction. But before I go on and show you that step, it might be better for me to show you that I drew this little arc right here, but what that represents and what I didn't draw is that is 3 times 20 plus 3 times 7. And over here again, this 4 times 30 and 4 times a negative 2 or a minus 2. What I didn't write in is the step that you could write in: 4 times 30 minus 4 times 2. Now I bring this up because this step right in here is going to be helpful on the next step, which is the factoring step. So if I had something like, 8 times 4 plus 8 times 6, instead of trying to do 32 plus 48, I could factor out the 8 because that's what they have in common. Went a little too far there. So I put the 8 in front, and what I'm left with, once I take those out, is 4 plus 6. Of course, from here it's easier to make this 8 times 10, which is 80. And again, we can do this with subtraction as well. Maybe something like 7 times 6 plus 7 times 12. I don't know. Anyway, we were supposed to make that minus. Just to show you that would come out to be 7 times 6 minus 12. And then that would be, 6 minus 12 is negative 6, and 7 times negative 6 is negative 42. Well, let's turn this all into distributing and factoring with negative 1. We'll start easy with something like negative 5 plus negative 3. If we're going to factor out the negative 1, what we want to look at is that negative 5 is made up of negative 1 times 5 plus negative 1 times 3. And then we pull out the negative 1 right here and here, and I'm left with 5 plus 3. And really what negative 1 is, it's saying the opposite. So the opposite of 5 plus the opposite of 3 is the opposite of 5 plus 3. And that's true. This is 8 times by negative 1 is negative 8. Well, we can see that negative 5 plus negative 3, that's like $5 in debt, plus another $3 in debt, that's $8 in debt. So this one is equivalent to, or equal to, this one down here. Let's try another. How about this time we'll make the first number positive, like 7 plus negative 2. Again, if I'm going to factor out the negative 1 times what equals 7? That would be negative 7, because only a negative times a negative is a positive. plus, well, negative 2 is negative 1 times 2. So again, I take out the negative 1, put it in front, and then I'm left with negative 7 plus 2. And again here, that's as far as we want to go. We don't need to go any further. That's what we're going for. Now the homework at this point will, after you do a few of these, it'll say, now multiply them back out, use the distributive property and multiply them back out and make sure that they still work, or that it's still true, or that it still equals what it used to be. So again, negative 1 times 5 would be negative 1 times 5 plus negative 1 times 3. And that would equal negative 5 plus negative 3. And over here the same thing, negative 1 times negative 7 plus negative 1 times 2. Well, negative 1 times negative 7 is positive 7 plus negative 1 times 2 is negative 2. And you can see that we get back what we started with. Now that's just to verify that this was equivalent to this, and the negative 1 times 5 plus 3 in parentheses, the sum of 5 and 3, equals the original. So let's try a negative in front this time, like negative 3 plus 4. Again, we're factoring out a negative 1. So negative 1 times 3 plus negative 1 times, well, to make it positive 4, it's going to have to be a negative 1 times a negative 4. Again, we take out the negative 1's, and in the parentheses what's left over is 3 plus negative 4. And if we want to, again, we can put parentheses around that, negative 4. And then we'll try one where they're both positive. How about just like 6 plus 1? And again, if I'm going to factor out a negative, it's going to be negative 1 times negative 6 plus negative 1 times negative 1. That's the only way we're going to get back a positive 1. So I factor out, or take out the negative 1, put it in front, and I'm left with negative 6 plus negative 1. So what do you do if you have a minus in the middle? Like, how about, I don't know, negative 9 minus 3. Well, personally what I would do is I would turn it into an addition. When we subtract, we add the opposite. So this is equal to a negative 9 plus negative 3. And then I would treat it the same way, that I did at the very beginning with the negative 5 and the negative 3. So it's not really a different idea. Is it scarier if we have like negative 7 minus negative 5? Well, no, because again, when we subtract, we add the opposite. So we leave it as negative 7 plus the opposite of negative 5 is 5. And now we deal with it the same way we dealt with the whole negative 3 plus 4. So if you have a minus, simply turn it into a plus and then deal with it the 4 ways I've already shown you.